The Galactic Council chamber shimmered with light from 1,000 stars projected across its vaulted ceiling. Delegates from 12,000 civilizations floated, hovered, or sat in crystalline pods arranged in perfect circles. At the center stood a single platform reserved for species under review. Today, that platform belonged to Earth. Humanity had finally reached the wider galaxy, only to discover that the galaxy was not impressed. Rumors spread through subspace networks that the Council's decision had already been made. Earth, young and volatile, was considered too unpredictable, too emotional, too dangerous. The vote would decide whether humanity joined or was permanently excluded. Ambassador Elena Reyes stood alone on the platform, her Navy uniform simple compared to the glowing robes and shifting exoskeletons surrounding her. She felt thousands of alien eyes studying her biology, her breathing patterns, her micro-expressions. Humans had prepared for this moment for decades. They had rehearsed speeches, memorized protocols, studied galactic law. Yet none of that eased the silence pressing against her chest. The council speaker, an ancient being of light known as Seraphis, pulsed gently before addressing the chamber. Species designation, humanity of Sol 3. Final assessment pending. The air vibrated with quiet judgment. Earth's application had been thorough. They presented advancements in medicine, renewable energy, quantum computing, and warp corridor stabilization. They showcased art, music, and literature translated into mathematical emotion matrices. They even submitted documentation of past wars, openly acknowledging their violent history. Transparency, they believed, would earn trust. But transparency had backfired. Other civilizations saw humanity's record of conflict and calculated risk probabilities. Statistical models predicted that within 2 centuries, humans could rival established galactic powers. Fear disguised itself as prudence. Whispers circled the chamber. They evolve too quickly. They adapt beyond projections. They are destabilizing. Seraphis extended a filament of light toward Elena. Humanity demonstrates exceptional adaptability, the speaker announced. However, Council projections indicate a 73% likelihood that your species will disrupt interstellar equilibrium within 500 cycles. Murmurs rippled across the hall. Elena kept her posture steady. She had expected this. Humanity's strength had always been uncomfortable to others. On Earth, rapid progress had frightened neighboring nations. Now it frightened galaxies. She cleared her throat. "With respect, Counselor," she began, "progress is not disruption. It is survival." Her voice echoed, small but unwavering. A crystalline delegate from the Varelian collective shimmered brighter. "Your species engages in warfare even while unified under planetary governance," it said coldly. "Your emotional volatility exceeds acceptable thresholds." Holographic screens displayed footage of human history, battlefields, nuclear tests, riots. Humanity's worst moments magnified in cosmic clarity. Elena felt shame, but not defeat. "Yes," she admitted, "we fight, we fail, we rebuild. That is how we grow." The chamber analyzed her words, converting them into probabilistic algorithms. The numbers did not improve. Another delegate, a biomechanical entity from Arcturon, projected a rotating model of Earth's technological curve. It rose steeply, nearly vertical in recent decades. "Uncontrolled exponential growth," the entity stated. "Within 3 centuries, humanity could surpass Council defense matrices." There it was, the real fear. Not violence, not instability, competition. Humanity was not being judged for what it was, but for what it might become. Elena almost smiled at the irony. On Earth, they had feared being alone in the universe. Now, the universe feared them. Seraphis dimmed slightly, signaling deliberation. The Council will vote. Streams of light shot upward as delegates transmitted their decisions. Exclude, exclude, exclude. A few flickers signaled support, but they were vastly outnumbered. Within moments, the result crystallized in the air above Elena's head. By overwhelming majority, Earth was denied membership. Furthermore, interstellar trade and shared research access would be restricted indefinitely. Humanity was to remain isolated within its local sector. Silence followed the announcement. All eyes turned to Elena, expecting outrage, pleading, perhaps desperation. Instead, she did something unexpected. She grinned. Not a smirk of arrogance, nor a mask of bitterness, but a genuine, almost relieved smile. The reaction confused the chamber's emotional sensors. "Ambassador Reyes," Seraphis said cautiously, "do you contest the ruling?" Elena shook her head gently. "No," she replied. "We understand." That answer unsettled them more than protest ever could. "You understand?" asked the Varelian delegate. "You have been denied entry into the greatest alliance in existence." Elena clasped her hands behind her back. "Yes, and we appreciate your honesty." Confusion intensified. Data streams recalculated. Humans were supposed to crave acceptance. Instead, this one radiated calm confidence. "You fear what we might become. That's fair. We've feared ourselves before." She paused, scanning the immense chamber. "But exclusion doesn't slow us down. It never has." Images flickered in Elena's mind. Centuries of Earth's history when nations were sanctioned, embargoed, isolated. Each time, humanity adapted, built internally, innovated under pressure. Scarcity forged resilience. "When we were denied resources," she said aloud, "we created alternatives. When borders closed, we explored inward. When we were underestimated, we surprised everyone." The chamber's predictive models spiked erratically. Isolation, once considered a containment strategy, now recalculated as a catalyst. A younger delegate from a minor system leaned forward. "Are you threatening the council?" Elena laughed softly. "Not at all. We don't need to." That statement carried a weight beyond aggression. It suggested inevitability. Humanity's confidence was not bluster, it was historical precedent. The council had expected either submission or hostility. They received neither. Seraphis pulsed again. "Your species will be monitored," the speaker warned. "Any violation of council space will be met with defensive response." Elena nodded respectfully. "Understood." She stepped back from the central platform. "We didn't come here for permission to grow," she added. "We came to introduce ourselves." The chamber registered a subtle shift in power. As she prepared to depart, a transmission from Earth blinked in her neural implant. Mission Control had watched the entire proceeding. Their message was brief. Outcome confirmed. Phase 2 authorized. Elena's grin widened slightly. Humanity had anticipated rejection. They had contingency plans. Not for war, but for independence. Centuries earlier, Earth had learned a painful lesson. Alliances shift, empires fall, self-reliance endures. In secret, humanity had been developing technologies not included in their council application. Experimental energy sources, autonomous shipyards hidden in the Kuiper Belt, artificial wormhole stabilizers beyond galactic standard designs. They had hoped to share them. Now they would refine them alone. The Council believed isolation would limit Earth's influence. They failed to consider how curiosity worked in human minds. Being told no rarely ended the story. It began a new one. Across Sol's system, factories ignited. Research stations activated dark mode protocols. Humanity did not rage against the decision. They simply redirected focus inward. Within a decade, Earth's first independent deep-range fleet launched. Sleek vessels powered by zero-point lattice cores slipped beyond mapped council corridors. They did not trespass into restricted systems. Instead, they explored uncharted voids, regions the council had deemed resource-poor and irrelevant. Humans saw possibility where others saw emptiness. Back in the Galactic Chamber, analysts monitored Earth's progress. Their projections had assumed stagnation under exclusion. Instead, humanity's development curve steepened. Isolation removed bureaucratic constraints. Without trade agreements to negotiate or council ethics committees to appease, innovation accelerated. Human explorers discovered rogue planets rich in exotic matter, untapped energy fields drifting between stars, and microbial life adaptable to terraforming initiatives. They mapped routes bypassing traditional galactic highways. Quietly, they built infrastructure that did not rely on council gates. 50 years after exclusion, Earth unveiled the Helios Array, a partially encircling sun. Energy output exceeded that of several mid-tier galaxy worlds combined. The announcement echoed through the galaxy. Humanity had achieved it without external assistance. Some council members felt unease, others felt admiration, a few felt regret. Seraphis requested updated projections. The results were startling. Humanity's probability of destabilizing the galaxy had decreased, not because they were weaker, but because they were no longer dependent. Meanwhile, Earth's culture flourished. Freed from the need to impress alien judges, humans focused on art, philosophy, and ethical AI governance. They debated their own expansion limits. Power without wisdom had nearly destroyed them before. They would not repeat that mistake. A century passed. Humanity established colonies beyond former council observation zones. These settlements operated cooperatively, connected by quantum entanglement relays. Their society balanced ambition with caution. They remembered the sting of rejection, but not with bitterness. Then crisis struck the galaxy. A gamma-burst anomaly destabilized multiple council trade corridors. Warplanes collapsed. Entire sectors faced energy shortages. For the first time in millennia, the council's infrastructure faltered. Earth watched the crisis unfold. They were not obligated to assist. After all, they had been excluded. Some leaders argued for neutrality. Others advocated intervention. The debate was intense, but ultimately simple. Humanity chose to help. Using their independent wormhole stabilizers, human ships restored fractured corridors. They deployed mobile fusion arrays to power stranded systems. They shared medical nanotechnology freely. No demands, no conditions. The Council was stunned. Assistance flowed from the very species they had feared. Seraphis addressed humanity once more, voice softer. "You aid us despite exclusion." Elena, now older but still resolute, responded via holographic link. "You misjudged us. That's understandable. We've misjudged ourselves before." Her eyes sparkled. "Growth doesn't require permission." Gratitude rippled through the chamber. Delegates reconsidered old assumptions. Humanity's power had not corrupted them. Isolation had refined them. A new vote was proposed, this time unanimous. Earth was invited not merely as a member, but as an equal partner. Elena listened carefully before replying. A familiar grin touched her face. "We appreciate the offer," she said gently, "but we've built something different."
Gasps echoed. Refuse membership? Unthinkable. Yet humanity did not reject out of spite. They proposed collaboration without hierarchy, no central authority, mutual respect only. It was a radical model, decentralized cooperation, shared knowledge without political dominance. The Council hesitated, but their recent vulnerability lingered fresh in memory. Gradually, systems adopted hybrid agreements with Earth. Trade flourished organically. Research partnerships formed voluntarily. Influence replaced control. Humanity had walked away from rejection smiling and returned stronger, not vengeful, but visionary. Young civilizations began studying Earth's trajectory, not their weapons, not their fleets, their resilience. Seraphis privately updated galactic records. Humanity's classification changed from potential threat to catalyst species. The irony was cosmic. Exclusion, intended as containment, had accelerated evolution, socially and technologically. Earth never forgot the day they were denied. It became a holiday known as Independence Among the Stars. Children learned the story not as humiliation, but as turning point. "They said no," teachers would say, "so we said watch." Galactic trade networks diversified. No single council held absolute authority anymore. Balance emerged through cooperation. Human explorers continued venturing into deep space, not to conquer, but to discover. Occasionally, skeptics still questioned humanity's rapid growth. Elena would simply smile. Fear had once defined the Council's view of Earth. Now, curiosity replaced it. When new species applied for membership, humanity advocated patience. Judge them by who they become, they advised. Time revealed the ultimate truth. Strength tempered by rejection becomes wisdom. The galaxy had tried to sideline humanity. Instead, it forged a partner beyond expectation. On Sol 3, citizens watched distant stars with quiet pride. They had not begged to belong. They had built their own path and made it welcoming to others. The Council's archives would forever record the day Earth was excluded, but history would remember what followed. Humanity grinned, walked away from rejection, and returned not as conquerors, not as rebels, but as equals. In trying to deny them a seat at the table, the galaxy had unknowingly challenged the one species that thrives on challenge. And that challenge changed everything.